Hey guys, what the heck is going on? Sam Cox here with Team Brofire, and coming to you guys today with a deck profile that was taken off of this channel about, I'd say 6 or 9 months ago or so. And since then I have just gotten a ton of requests over Facebook and Instagram and Dueling Book and just comments on the channel asking me to re-upload it. So that's what we're doing today. Today I'm going to show you guys a version of Thunder Dragon / Aggro Monarchs, and this is a profile that I had played in a deck, I'd say probably like 3 years ago or so, at a GOAT tournament here in Oklahoma, and I had gotten first place. And so I put the profile on the channel, and since then I had kind of really started to play Monarchs a lot differently and wanted to kind of just hide that profile for a while. So I took it off the channel, and I just got a lot of requests to get it back up because a lot of people just kind of enjoyed playing it in this way. So yeah, so I'm going to be showcasing almost card for card the build that I had played about 3 years ago, with a few new updates that I just could not look past. But like I said, the majority of this is probably about the same. I'll try to do my best to explain the card choices and not only some of the strategies, but some of the engines in this deck and really kind of how they worked and how they worked well with this deck specifically. Yeah, this is a very fun deck. Like I said, it's Thunder Dragon, Monarchs, and I really had a fun time, just playing this deck and testing it for the couple of months before this. It's a very, very fun deck, and it's really kind of revolves around the aspect of, having Thunder Dragon in a Monarch deck to not only just like increase your hand size, but always having a level 5 to tribute over your opponent's stuff. And it allows you to play, things like BLS and stuff. So it's a very, very fun profile, and we're going to get into this. So first of all, we play 3 copies of Thessalos, 1 copy of Grandmark, and 2 copies of Zaborg. In the old profile, these ratios were a little bit different. Now, if you're going to play, quote unquote standard Monarchs, I would highly suggest going with this lineup right here in the main deck for a few different reasons. So I like these ratios because I feel like it doesn't break as much. I know that Monarchs, since the beginning of time, have been known to just brick and brick, but this I feel like is a little bit better. Let me explain why. So I like Thessalos at 3 because your opponent's pretty much always going to have cards in their hand to rip out, and if they don't, then you're kind of sitting pretty good in the game. I like 2 copies of Zaborg because they just have to have a monster on the field, and this thing is live. Sometimes, if they don't have a monster on the field, again, you're in a very good position. Grandmark, you have to make sure that they have a face down card on the field. So it can be a set monster, or it can be a back row or whatever. So it becomes less usable at all times, but in the times we're able to actually pull this card off, it's really good. In the side, you would actually side 3 Mobius, 1 Zaborg, and 2 Grandmark. But I like this lineup as a whole. It seems like it's not that many Monarchs, but we do play a pretty aggro build with this, and we play a lot of monsters that are really good on their own. But this is it for the main deck lineup. Again, in the old times, the olden days, when I had uploaded this profile before, that lineup was a little bit different. I want to say that there were 6 or 7, and I played like multiple Grandmark, but and again, play what you want. This is just kind of what I feel like if you were going to play standard Monarchs nowadays, this is probably what I would play. So next we played 3 copies of Thunder Dragon. Now this card is a really, really good card in GOAT format in general. This is no new news at all, but why I like it in this deck is because in this deck we play VLS, and we also play things like Soul Exchange, Brain Control, that kind of stuff. And sometimes you may not have these in your hand, but this pretty much makes it to where like all of your tribute spells, again, things like Brain Control, Snatch Steal, Soul Exchange, stuff like that, are pretty much live at all times, so that if your opponent has a problematic card that you're trying to get rid of, it makes it to where you can get rid of that problematic card, even if you're not going to destroy a card on their field or rip a card out of their hand or something. You're still getting rid of their face down Magician of Faith, or their BLS, or fill in the blank. It could be like a ton of different stuff. So this engine allows you to pretty much just have, like I said, tribute fodder almost at all times. Deck thins also protect your hand from things like duo, helps you in instances like card destruction, gets light in the grave. Obviously Thunder Dragon is just a really, really, really good card in GOAT format. I'd probably say one of the top 10 cards in this format in general. So next we play the tribute spells. Now we play 3 copies of Soul Exchange, 2 Premature, and 2 Brain Control. Now I'm gonna talk about these here in a second, but Soul Exchange is a really good card because I feel like this deck is kind of a slow playing deck. Like, it really is all about the advantage. And if you can get Soul Exchange plus any one of these Monarchs, it makes it to where it's a +1, you know, because you steal their monster, you tribute over their monster, and then, you know, you can get something else off their field or out of their hand. So pretty much all in all, you just use 1 card and it gets rid of 2 of theirs. So that's really kind of the reason why. Same thing with Brain Control. I only play 2 of this because obviously not at all times you're going to have a face-up monster on the field. And yeah, so you can side the 3rd copy of this for Chaos. So also I like these 2 cards because these 2 cards are kind of like, I don't know, I would say like the elite, you know, tribute cards, like, because you can bring back things like, you know, Sangan from the grave, and you tribute over Sangan and get to search and then pop something out of your opponent's hand or on the field or whatever. Snatch Steal is probably hands down one of the best spells in this whole entire deck. Just the way that it plays and just how it goes in with the strategies and everything. It's a good card all by itself, just like Premature is, but it combos really, really well with the rest of this deck. And next we play the Dark Engine. Now we play 3 Tomato, play 2 Reaper, 1 Nidoria, and 1 Sangan. Now I really like this engine because it pretty much allows you to keep monsters on the field. Now if my opponent's attacking against the tomatoes, I'll just pretty much keep summoning the tomatoes to keep deck thinning, but sometimes there will come an instance where I need to destroy the monster that they have on the field, or if they don't have something else in the field, you know, I'll get Reaper out. I like to float down into Sangan also if I have a Monarch in hand, so that on my turn I can just tribute the Sangan, again, like I said earlier, and then search your deck and also you know, rip something out of their hand or their field or whatever. There's a lot of times where I'll go Tomato into Sangan and do that whole thing and then search another Tomato so that I can keep this engine going. So it pretty much feeds into the Light and Dark engine, you know, because we only play 1 BLS. So you want to make sure that you try to, you know, just get that engine going as soon as you can. We play 3 of the major spells, obviously Pot, Duo, Charity. In this deck, I found myself grabbing back the Duo a lot whenever I was playing Magician of Faith. I'm not playing Magician of Faith anymore in this build, but whenever I was, I found myself doing that a lot because with Thessalos and Reaper, it just, man, you just rip so many cards out of their hand, I feel like, all the time, and this really just kind of kept your opponent like on their toes. If you do play Magician of Faith in the deck, I would highly recommend, you know, experimenting with grabbing cards back like this versus cards like this. Obviously, there's situations where you're going to need to get Pot, but yeah, just a side note for y'all. Then we have a Warrior Engine. We have Exiled Force, Knife Fighter, aka Blade Knight, Deed Warrior Lady, and Big Shield. Big Shield's probably my favorite of all these, just because they don't really ever see it coming, and it's really cool. And it pretty much just allows a big body that you contribute for, you know, one of your Monarchs, and you know, it pretty much makes your opponent go -1 if they end up trying to activate something like Knock or Mind Control or something like that onto this. Exiled is just really, really good spot removal. I like to get exiled probably almost every single time that I have Rhoda, because we play things like Call the Haunted and Premature, and that just makes it to where Call the Haunted and Premature themselves are spot removal too. So I think back in the day I was playing 2 copies of Rhoda with 4, and I feel like I bricked a lot. But nowadays you can also kind of experiment with playing another copy of Rhoda, and then, you know, maybe level 2 Swordsman or another Blade Knight or whatever. But yeah, so those were pretty much just like the quote-unquote staple warriors that are like in every single warrior package, plus the Gardener, which is really good with Monarchs. So we play 1 Breaker and 1 BLS, your +1 cards. This deck is just really good at, you know, going 1 for 1 a lot and then plussing where you can. I know I say that a lot on this channel about a lot of different decks, but this is kind of the deck that made me want to play that way in general. So, you know, if you do it right, you get a +1 right here. If you do it right, you get a +1 right here as well. And then we're going into Heavy and Space, the 2 Knock. I think back in the day I was only playing 1 Knock for the fact that I wanted them to like have monsters on the field for me to steal. But nowadays, you know, I just kind of realized that this deck does really good all by itself. Like if you can make it to where Monarchs have just like an aggro build to it anyway, like cards that can stand by themselves, like the Warrior Engine and Tomatoes and stuff like that, then I really feel like you just want to make sure that they don't have monsters on their field, and whenever they do, then you should have the combo pieces in your hand to get rid of it. So then we played the 3 traps that I really feel like were good in this build. Ring closes out so many games because you play so many big monsters in this deck. You play a lot of 24s and obviously BLS and that kind of stuff. And then Call's really good with, pretty much everything. Like the Tomatoes are good to bring back, the Sandgan's good to bring back, the Tribute Over, the Exile Force is really good, obviously BLS, and then your monsters are 2,400 at that point too. So, and this is pretty much live at all points in the game because you see Thunder Dragon usually pretty early on. So, and then Mirror Force, obviously you want to just play that card because it's such a good card. Now we're gonna get into the side. I didn't side a ton of stuff with this deck. I remember at the end of the tournament being like, okay, I didn't hardly use any of my side deck. So I'm gonna show you guys the cards that I actually used in the side, and then just a few other things that you guys could play. So we'll talk about. So Genzo obviously is really good because it kind of goes along with the rest of the deck, and you're able to have monsters on your side of the field to just try to tribute for. We don't really play that many traps in this deck anyway. We play 3 in the main. So we played 3 copies of Mind Crush. Now I liked 3 copies of Mind Crush in this because Tsukiyomi was such a problematic card against this deck whenever I was testing for it, and I wanted to play a card that would just kind of out the Tsukiyomi, while at the same time giving me knowledge of my opponent's hand. And obviously back then, Mind Crush has changed in regards to Yu-Gi-Oh! And nowadays in Modern, but back then it was like you got to get the knowledge out of your opponent's hand, and they had to show you their whole entire hand and stuff. And depending on the tournament, in this tournament we were allowed to take notes, so that's why I played Mind Crush, and this card did so well for me. But there's so many cards in Go format that allow you to activate this, just to rip it out, go 1 for 1, and get the knowledge. Like Magician of Faith, obviously return something back from the grave. Stuff like Merchant, man, the list goes on and on. Mask of Darkness and Sandgan obviously conserves Tsukiyomi. Any of the spirit monsters, Azura and that kind of stuff. So Mind Crush is really good. And then I played 3 Dust Tornadoes. We do play a lot of really aggro / attacking cards. Trying to get at your opponent's life points all the time, or ripping cards of Spirit Reaper. So if they were playing a really background heavy deck, I played Dust Tornado. So nowadays, what I would say you guys can also side or even main, really depending on your preference. Level 2 Swordsman would be a really good one. Dawn Zalug would be a good one. I'm not a huge fan of Dawn Zalug just because of the stats. Anything else, I'd probably go with him if it weren't for the stats. I like Spirit Reaper also because it can be destroyed by battle, and that just allows you to keep him on the field for Monarchs and stuff. So yeah, Level 2 Swordsman, another copy of Rhoda, Dawn Zalug, the Mobius, Grand Marg, and then Zaborg, whatever you're not playing in the main. Those are some things I would highly suggest siding. Mind Control is okay to side against things like Chaos because this is an aggro deck, but at the same time you can't tribute the monster if you get it with Mind Control. So there's that. But anyway, guys, let me know what you guys think. Again, this is the build that I played almost card for card back in the day. I would personally change a few things about it, but I had so many requests to get this thing back up on the channel. So here we are. And as always, guys, feel free to like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. Check out everything down in the description, and we'll see y'all later.